Hear now the roar of our Lion of Zion as a little itty bitty kitty's teeny weeny whispering purr. For it's not by power nor by might, but by the Spirit of love. And as it is foretold in the Word of God, that Lion of Judah, he is now ripped the earth apart with his claws, revealing no more the veil being in one piece intact, for he has ripped the veil with his sharpest of claws, even the double edged razor of the sickle of Revelation 14 that he has put into the earth to reap it for his harvest of love. And so, in this hour, welcome to Cahill Gibran, Mary Magdalene, on meeting Jesus the very first time. Blessed is this writer above all men for the gospel that he has produced. And it truly, truly, verily, verily, he was, is, and always shall be a prophet of the Most High, our risen Lord, the Good Shepherd over all the flocks of man, regardless whether people want to believe that or not, even though he said it. John 10, even though God, the true God, doesn't exist in this world, the God of all mankind, Jeremiah 32:27. God doesn't change. We changed him. Early Hebrews stole the Hebrew books, then declared we are Israel and all the prophecies for us. And no revelation is even welcomed in this world. How can you restore all things? I am Elijah, Matthew 17:11. How do you restore all things without revelation? Revelation. Closed minded arseholes is what's stopping that process in the brain, the cognitive dissonance, because you want to embrace your ignorance as your most comfortable pillow. So it came to pass that Mary Magdalene, her voice came forth. And it was in the month of June when she said, I saw him for the very first time. Jesus, Isa Yeshua, was walking in the wheat field, and I passed by with my handmaidens, and he was alone. The rhythm of his steps was different from other men's, she said, and the movement of his body was like nothing I had ever seen before. Men do not pace the earth in that manner, in that way. And even now, I don't know whether he was really walking fast or slow. My handmaidens, she said, pointed their fingers at him. And uh, when they did, they spoke in sly whispers to one another. And Mary said, as I stayed my steps for a moment, and then I raised my hand to hail him, but he did not turn his face, and he did not even look at me. And I hated him for a second in that moment. I felt ignored, and I was then swept back into myself, and I was as cold as if I had been in a snowdrift, and I shivered from what felt like a cold shoulder, though it was not. He knew the future, so he was proceeding cautiously. And the night I beheld him in my dreaming, and they told me afterward that I had screamed in my sleep and I was restless upon my bed, she said. And it was in the month of August when I saw Christ again through my window. He was sitting He was sitting in the shadow of the cypress tree across my garden, and he was still as if he had been carved out of stone, like the statues of Antioch and the other cities of the North Country. And um, my slave the Egyptian, came unto me and said, that man, Christ, is here again. He is sitting there across your garden. And Mary said, as I gazed at him, and my soul then quivered within me, for he was beautiful. His body was single, and each part seemed to love each other, every other part. Then I clothed myself with the raiment of Damascus, and I left my house and I walked towards Jesus. Was it my aloneness or was it in his fragrance that drew me to him? I don't know. Was it hunger in my eyes that desired the comeliness? Or was it his beauty that sought the light of my eyes? She could not really pinpoint. And she said, even now I don't know. So I walked to him with my scented garments and my golden sandals, the sandals that the Roman captain had given to me, even those sandals. And when I reached him, I said, good morrow to you. And Jesus said, good morrow to you, Miriam. And he looked at her, and uh, I thought, how did he know my name? I didn't tell him my name. I didn't introduce him. So he looked at me, and his night eyes saw me as no man had ever seen me. And suddenly it was as if I was naked, and I was shy, and I was startled, and I was shocked. And he had only said good morning. And then I said to him, will you not come into the house? And he said, am I not already in your house? Because it was connected. And I do not know what he meant then, but I now know, looking back retrospectively, she finally came to understand. And she said, will you not have wine and bread with me? And he said, yes, Miriam, but not now. Not now, not now, he said. And the voice of the sea seemed to be in those words. It seemed like there was an echo, and the voice of the wind and the trees were within those words. And when he said them unto me, life seemingly spoke unto death to awaken me out of my slumber. And my heart quickened and jumped and leaped for joy in the comfort of his loving gaze. And mind you, my friend, I was dead, said she. I was a woman who had divorced her soul. I was living apart from the self which you now see before you. I belonged to all men, and yet I belonged to none. They called me a harlot, a whore, and a woman pressed of seven devils. And I was cursed, and I was envied at the same time. But when the master of all, when his drawn eyes looked deeply into my eyes, she said, all the stars of my night immediately faded away. And suddenly, instead of just a loose woman, I became Lady Miriam, only Miriam, a woman that was destined to be no longer lost to the earth that I had known previously, because a new place of hope was just ahead. And she could see, as Joel wrote, that Eden truly is ahead of us. And so then she said, so come then into my house. And then he said, well, why do you bid me to be your guest? He asked. So she said, I beg you, come on, come into the house. And it was all that was sod in me, and all that was sky was calling unto him. So he cracked a nice smile and showed her his pearly whites. And she said, and he looked with me, and the noontime and the noontide of his eyes were then upon me. And he said unto me, you have many lovers, and yet I alone really do love you. And she was aghast, but she did not react. For a second, it was as though she closed her eyes, prayerfully seeking a word in response. And then he said, other men love themselves in your nearness. I love you in yourself. Other men see a beauty in you that shall fade away sooner than their own years. But I see in you the eternal beauty that will never fade away. And in the autumn of your days, that beauty will never be afraid to gaze at itself in the mirror. and it will never be offended. I alone love the unseen in you. Namaste. And then he said in a low voice, go away now. If the cypress tree is yours, and you would not have me to sit in its shadow, I would just walk my way. And so she said, I cried unto him and then said, Master, come into the house, in a tone begging him. And she said, I have incense I want to burn for you, and I have a silver basin to wash your feet. You are a stranger, and yet you are not a stranger. And I entreat you, please, I beg of you, come into my house. So he then stood up majestically, and he looked at Mary, even as the seasons might look down upon the field. And Christ smiled, and he then said, all men love you for themselves. I will always love you for yourself. And then he walked away. But no other man ever walked the way he walked. Uh, was it a breath born in my garden that moved to the east? Or was it a storm that would shake all things down to their very foundation? She had to ask herself those questions. And then she said, I knew not, but on that day of the sunset of his eyes, show the dragon in me. And then once I saw the dragon within, then she said, then I became a real woman, kind of like Pinocchio, becoming a real boy. And then I became Miriam, Miriam the respected, Miriam of Mijdah. And man, that is a story worth ripping up this whole earth for. So come back again next time. Love from love, hope from hope, and peace from peace. And remember that if God's word does not go forth again, his message of Malachi 3:1 that would prepare his way, he cannot return. Acts 3:21 says so, uh, unless the restoration happens. What restoration? Elijah would come forth and restore all things. I preach only to white noise. Nobody gives this old preacher time of the day, even though these days are exactly like the days of Noah, and we are scheduled in the fairly near future to have a world inherited where there will be no more birds, no mankind, and no fish of the sea. Zephaniah 1:1. And if you want that future, just continue to ignore, not to like me on purpose, to be shallow as a glass of water. So go deep. It's time to expand our hearts. So please, please, I beg of you, please like some of my videos so these videos will go out. Otherwise, by you purposely not liking these videos, they're going nowhere fast. I've got 12,000 videos now that attest to the fact that I have done everything in vain. Isaiah 49:4. That was never about Jesus. That was Shiloh, who I am, line by line, precept by precept, one whose eyes are red and dull of wine, who holds the scepter of all authority. Genesis 49:12. And so in this hour, I beg of you, start being obedient, because nobody's been obedient here at this channel.